Chapter 2. Your Purification. Tahara. Allah commands Muslims to purify themselves inwardly from the sin of shirk, as well as from diseases such as envy, pride and hatred, and outwardly from dirt and all kinds of impurities. Once they do so, they become worthy of His love, as the Quran states, Allah loves those who turn to Him constantly, and He loves those who keep themselves pure and clean. Surat Al-Baqarah 2:222. Contents. The meaning of purification. Purification from physical impurity. Removing physical impurity. Toilet etiquette. Ritual impurity, hadath. The minor ritual impurity and how to remove it. Manner of performing the partial ablution, Wudoo. How to perform Wudoo and remove the minor ritual impurity. The major ritual impurity and the full ablution, ghusl. How to remove the major ritual impurity. What to do if one is unable to use water. The meaning of purification. The Arabic word tahara, purification, denotes purity and cleanliness. Allah commands Muslims to purify themselves outwardly from forbidden appearances and all types of physical impurities, and inwardly from the unpardonable sin of shirk, as well as diseases of heart, such as envy, pride and hatred. Once they do so, they become worthy of His love, as the Quran states, Allah loves those who turn to Him constantly, and He loves those who keep themselves pure and clean. Surat Al-Baqarah 2:222. Allah also commands them to purify themselves prior to standing before Him in prayer. If man generally cleans himself and puts on his finest clothes before meeting a person who has a worldly position of authority, such as being a king or a president, then surely he has to do so before standing before the King of Kings. What is the required purification for performing the prayer? Allah commands Muslims to purify themselves and perform the partial ablution, Wudoo, before engaging in such ritual acts as performing the prayer, touching the Quran, and circumambulating the Kaaba in Makkah. He also recommends them to perform Wudoo before doing a number of things, such as reciting the Quran from memory, supplicating, and sleeping. Therefore, before a Muslim offers a prayer, he must remove two things: physical impurity, najasa, ritual impurity, hadath, purification from physical impurity. The Arabic word najasa denotes all physical substances which Islam considers impure and commands us to remove them before engaging in an act of worship. The general rule in Islamic law, Sharia, is that all things are considered pure, and physical impurity, najasa, is only an intervening factor. Thus, if a person has doubts as to whether or not his trousers, for instance, are clean or not, but there is no proof for any type of physical impurity on them, then they should be assumed to be clean, following the general rule. If we want to pray, we must first remove all physical impurities from the body, clothing, and the place where we intend to offer the prayer. Things that are considered impure include the following: human urine and feces, blood, except if it constitutes an insignificant amount, urine and dung of animals that are considered unlawful for human consumption, dogs and pigs, dead animals except for those ones that are considered fit and lawful for human consumption and have been slaughtered according to Islamic rules. Human corpses, fish, and insects are considered pure. Removing physical impurity. Physical impurity on the body, clothes, place where the prayer is intended to be performed, or anything or anywhere for that matter, can be removed with anything, be it water or otherwise, for Islam commands removing it. It is not stipulated as to how many times it must be washed off, except in the case of the physical impurity of a dog, i.e. its saliva, urine and feces, where it must be washed 7 times, one of which must be done with earth. For the rest of physical impurities, they must be washed off, and if some smell or stubborn stains remain after washing, they may be ignored. Once a woman asked the Prophet about washing off menstrual blood, and he said, "It would suffice to wash it off, and you do not have to worry about any stains that are left." Sunan Abu Dawud 365. Toilet etiquette. A Muslim is recommended to enter the toilet with the left foot first, after saying, Bismillah, Allahumma a'udhu bika min al-khubthi wal-khabaith. I seek refuge with you, O Allah, from the male and female jinn. He is also recommended to leave the toilet with the right foot first, and then say, Hufranak, I seek your forgiveness, O Allah. He must cover his private parts while answering the call of nature. He must not answer the call of nature in a place where he may be seen, or where he may offend people. Doing so is strictly forbidden. If he is out in an open space, such as the desert, he must not relieve himself in a hole, as he may either harm creatures that live in holes in the ground, or be harmed by them. Doing so is strictly forbidden. He must not face the Qibla, the direction of the Kaaba in Makkah, towards which Muslims pray, or turn his back towards it. For the Prophet said, when you are answering the call of nature, you should not face the Qibla, or turn your back towards it. Sahih al-Bukhari 386, Sahih Muslim 264. This mainly applies if one is out in an open space. There is no harm, however, to do so in buildings, such as in present-day toilets. He must try to be careful not to have any impurities splashed onto his body or clothes. If this happens accidentally, then one must wash the impurity off the affected place thoroughly. Once he has relieved himself, he must either clean his private parts thoroughly with water, this act is called istinja in Arabic, or clean them 3 times or more with anything that would serve the purpose, such as toilet tissue or stones. This act is called istijmar in Arabic. It is recommended to use the left hand for cleaning the private parts. Ritual impurity, hadath. Ritual impurity, hadath, refers to the state of intangible uncleanliness that prevents a Muslim from offering the prayer until he removes it. It is not physical, like najasa. This ritual impurity can be removed by performing the partial ablution, Wudoo, or a full ablution, ghusl, bath, using pure water. Pure water is water that has not been in contact with any physical impurities that might otherwise change its colour, taste or smell. If he performs Wudoo, then he can perform as many prayers as he wishes, as long as he does not break it. Ritual impurity is of 2 types. 1. Minor ritual impurity. This can be removed by performing Wudoo, partial ablution. 2. Major ritual impurity. This can be removed by performing ghusl, ritual bath, the minor ritual impurity and Wudoo. The partial ablution, Wudoo, becomes invalid with any of the following: natural discharges from the private parts, both the external genital and excretory organs, such as urine, excrement and wind. Detailing things which invalidate ablution, the Quran states, or have just satisfied a want of nature. Surat An-Nisa 4:43. When the Prophet was informed about a man who had doubts as to whether he has passed wind or not, i.e., whether he had broken his Wudoo or not during the prayer, he advised he should not turn away or leave the prayer unless he hears a noise or smells something. Sahih al-Bukhari 175, Sahih Muslim 361. Lustfully touching the private parts with bare hands, for the Prophet said, whoever touches his private parts must perform Wudoo again. Sunan Abu Dawud 181. Eating camel meat. The Prophet was once asked, should we perform Wudoo after eating camel meat? He replied, yes. Sahih Muslim 360. Loss of consciousness because of sleep, insanity, or drunkenness. Manner of performing the partial ablution, Wudoo. Performing Wudoo, and purification for that matter, is one of the best and most exalted deeds with which Allah forgives one's sins. As the Prophet said, when a Muslim servant of Allah washes his face in the course of performing Wudoo, every sin he has committed with his eyes is washed away from his face along with the water. When he washes his hands, every sin his hands have committed is washed away from his hands with the water. When he washes his feet, every sin towards which his feet have walked is washed away with water, with the result that he comes out cleansed of all sins. Sahih Muslim 244. How to perform Wudoo and remove the minor ritual impurity. If a Muslim wants to perform Wudoo, he intends to do so for the purpose of offering the prayer, but without making a verbal declaration, for the intention is a condition for all acts in Islam. The Prophet said, "Actions are but by intentions." Sahih al-Bukhari 1. Sahih Muslim 1907. Then he starts the ablution, washing each part in a continuous manner without long intervals and in the following sequence. He says, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. He washes his hands up to the wrists 3 times. It is recommended to do so 3 times. He rinses out his mouth thoroughly by moving water around in the mouth and then spitting it out. He uses his right hand to take in water. It is obligatory to rinse out the mouth once, but it is recommended to do so 3 times. He cleans his nose by sniffing water into the nostrils and ejecting it out. It is recommended to snuff up water deeply without causing any harm to himself. It is obligatory to clean the nose once, but it is recommended to do so 3 times. He washes the entire face with both hands, from the top of the forehead to the bottom of the chin, and from ear to ear. The ears are not included in washing the face. It is obligatory to wash the face once, but it is recommended to wash it 3 times. He washes the right hand up the far end of the elbow, and then he does the same thing with the left hand and forearm. It is obligatory to wash the hands up to the elbows once, but it is recommended to do so 3 times. With wet hands, and starting with his hands flat on the top of the head near the hairline, he wipes it to the back of the neck. It is sunnah to wipe it back to the front. This should be done only once, unlike the case with other parts. With wet fingers, he wipes the inner sides of the ears with the forefingers and their outer sides with the thumbs. This is also done once. He washes his feet up to the ankles, beginning with the right foot. It is obligatory to wash the feet only once, but it is recommended to wash them 3 times. If he is wearing a pair of socks, he can wipe over them with wet hands, but only under certain conditions. The major ritual impurity and the full ablution. Ghusl, ritual bath. Things which require a person to perform full ablution. There are certain things which require an adult Muslim to perform full ablution, ghusl, before engaging in the prayer or circumambulating the Kaaba. Before he performs such ablution, he is said to be in a state of major ritual impurity. These things are as follows. 1. Ejaculation with pleasure and by any means, while asleep or awake. Ejaculation involves the expulsion of seminal fluid, a thick whitish fluid, from the urethra of the penis during orgasm, which is generally followed by a feeling of lethargy and inertia. 2. Sexual intercourse. This involves penetration, even if it does not lead to ejaculation. In fact, mere penetration of the glands into the vagina provides sufficient grounds for performing ghusl, i.e., taking a ritual bath. The Quran says, "If you are in a state of major impurity, then purify yourselves." Surat al-Ma'idah 5:6. 3. Menstrual blood and postnatal bleeding. Menstrual blood is a natural type of blood which flows from the uterus of women and occurs at roughly monthly intervals during a woman's reproductive years. It usually lasts more or less 7 days, with some variation from one woman to another. Postnatal bleeding. This bleeding takes place following a delivery in the postnatal period and lasts for a number of days. Menstruating women and women experiencing their postnatal bleeding are exempt from fasting, as well as from performing the prayers. They must, however, make up for their missed fasts, but not for the missed prayers. During this period, A husband and wife can satisfy their sexual desire, but without having an intercourse. At the end of menstruation and postnatal bleeding, women must take a ritual bath, ghusl. As the Quran states, they will ask you about menstruation. Say, it is an impurity, so keep apart from women during menstruation, and do not approach them until they have purified themselves. But once they have purified themselves, then go to them in the way that Allah has enjoined on you. Surat al-Baqarah 2:222. How to remove the major ritual impurity. Janaba. To perform the full ablution, it would be sufficient for a Muslim to wash the entire body with water with the intention that it is for the purpose of purity and worship. However, the best method of taking a ritual bath is to wash oneself in the same way one cleans oneself after answering nature's call, perform wudoo, and then wash the entire body with water. Doing so increases one's rewards, as it is in accordance with the guidance of the Prophet. After taking a ritual bath that way, there is no need to perform wudoo along with it. However, the best method of removing the major ritual impurity is to perform the full ablution, which includes wudoo, for this was the very practice of the Prophet. Wiping over the socks. Islam is so practical that it allows a Muslim to wipe over the top of his socks or shoes with wet hands, but not over the soles, instead of washing his feet when renewing his wudoo, on condition that he has put them on after having performed wudoo. He can continue doing so for a period not exceeding 24 hours for a resident and 72 hours for a traveller. The feet must, however, be washed when performing a ritual bath to remove janaba. What to do in case one is unable to use water? If a Muslim is unable to use water to perform wudoo or take a ritual bath, ghusl, due to illness, when water is not readily available, or when using the available water for wudoo or ghusl would leave insufficient water for drinking, he can resort to pure earth as a substitute for ablution. This is called tayammum, and he can continue to do so until he finds sufficient water or becomes able to use it. Manner of performing tayammum. 1. Strike both hands lightly on pure earth once. 2. Wipe the face with them. 3. Wipe the back of the right hand with the palm of the left, and then the back of the left hand with the palm of the right hand.